and welcome to Chat with Kari on Diya TV. Join me each week as I chat with filmmakers, entertainers, and artists about all things show business. Today, my guest is Almanya Narula, who stars in a one-woman show. Welcome, Almanya.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yes. So you have a one-woman show. Tell me about that and where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so my one-woman show is called Noor Inayat Khan, The Forgotten Spy. It's based on this woman, Noor Inayat Khan, who was an Indian princess. She was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Emperor Tipu Sultan. Her father is Inayat Khan, who founded Sufism in the West. And she became the first woman, the first Indian person to be sent out as a spy for the British in World War II. And she operated in France because that was where she was raised, and so she knew the area quite a bit. And so naturally, that was where her circuit was. She was a radio operator, and she was responsible for collecting vital information that made D-Day successful. And she, in duty, in the line of duty, ended up sacrificing her life for a greater cause, which is the continuation of humanity as we know it. And no one's heard of her because we love a good whitewashing history. And so the solo show is in honor and in celebration of her efforts and her bravery and just her all-around badassness and tenacity. It is the last 30 minutes of her life. And this show technically has been brewing in my head since I was 10. So that was like 17 years ago when I found out about her. I was waiting for my mom in Thailand. I grew up in Thailand. It was like the Thailand's version of Barnes & Noble. And I picked up a book. It happened to be a World War II book. And she was a footnote in it. And I remember at the time, I didn't have a computer. There was no like Wikipedia internet kind of situation in my household. But something about just even what that one sentence stuck in my head and lasted years until I finally, when I was like 17, I was going down like a Wikipedia rabbit hole and came across her again. And I was like, I started reading more about her, and I just found her story so fascinating and so interesting. And it kind of bothered me that there was like no information on this woman, because I was like, this is really cool. Like, this is a really cool person in history. And then, 10 years later after that, I finally decided to write a solo show about it. And here we are.
How timely do you feel that kind of story is today?
I think it's really timely. I mean, like many people have come to me and they're like, why now? And I'm like, well, even though it's a World War II story, I think Noor Inayat Khan's journey is very empowering to us right now. I think with the state of the world, everyone wakes up every day feeling very defeated. The pandemic, mass shootings left and right, and we feel like nothing, it's like the powers that be are just going to govern us and we have no say. And Noor is someone who till the very end, fought for freedom and made her own choices. So often in these stories about women in history, we like to focus on the tragedy rather than the autonomy they had and the decisions that they made. And she was someone who was deemed the last person for the job. Her superiors were like, she's an Indian princess, she's clumsy and an airhead. And she was those things, but because she was so driven by this specific goal, which was to save people, it's almost like she stumbled upon greatness. She had it in her to get out there and save all these lives. And she did, despite her being tiny, despite her being a pacifist, despite, her being a woman, whatever, And so I look at her story and I think well, she did it. you know, like, so why can't we? Why can't I get up today and make that phone call? Why can't I get up today and fight? Because she did till the very end. And to me, that's like really inspiring. And that's what I want people to get out of the show is like, everyone has it in us to fight. And we're not limited by what other people perceive us as. We can get out there and do the right thing. Because if not me, then who?
What was the most interesting or most surprising piece of information you found in your research?
Well, some of her stories are like her interactions with the Gestapo is like really interesting because, you know, I mean, like, she's someone who, because obviously driven by her father's principles of Sufism, she's a pacifist, and you know, she had this no lying code, like she couldn't lie, which is like, you're a spy. You kind of gotta lie.
Yeah,
you know?
bend the rules a little bit there.
Yeah, but you know, she had these hardcore rules, but then when push came to shove, it's like all of that sort of went out of the window. You know, like she fought. She, like, you know, like she wasn't like, you know, a combatant like that, but she fought for her life. You know, ran away, and like she started lying left and right, but like some of the craziest, like, stupid lies, you know. And you see, you know, you think about the Gestapo as this, like, you know, like, no, they know everything and they're always watching, and you know, they're this scary evil, which they are, but like, you know, some of her stories of how she got away with carrying a giant radio set, you know, like she almost got caught, like before she finally officially got caught, like she almost got caught twice. Like there was one time she was literally setting up her radio set out in the open because she wasn't receiving a good signal. This guy walks by and is like, "What are you doing?" And she literally goes like, "Oh, I know it's the war, but I'm not receiving a good signal and I need to listen to some jazz." And then he helps her set up her radio set. You know, like that's so crazy to me. And then like there's this other time that like the Gestapo like sees her at the train station and they make her open her suitcase. They see the radio set and they're like, "What is this?" And she just replies by saying it's a cinematographic apparatus. And they believe her. And like that's like, what? You know, like, you know, and so some of these stories to me are just insane. It's like how she was able to get away with some of it. And I think because she was unassuming, you know, because she wasn't like spy material, like it allowed her to use her wit and charm and get away with a lot of things, you know. And I think to me that was really surprising, you know, to see, you know, when we think of badass women in history, we always think like Joan of Arc, like sword and armor, and that's also cool and great, you know. But like sometimes we forget that badass can also just like, there's badass in femininity and there's badass with inner strength. And like to me, that was what was surprising, because I'm someone who's like, you know, like I'm a combatant. I love stories about like warrior women. And when I really started getting into it, there was a period of time that I was like, but the more I read, I was like, actually, I find her passive strength even more powerful. That was like a really cool thing to learn.
As someone who has a background in stunts and choreography, was that a challenge at all to channel this character that's not as physical?
You know, because I am who I am, I found a way to make the show physical. Because the show is centered around her talking to a Nazi officer, a Gestapo leader, right after her third attempted escape from Avenue Foch, which is the Gestapo headquarters in Paris. And that's where they house prisoners of interest. So like they would treat them better because they want to get information out of them. So it's almost like brainwashing them, like, you know, serving them so that they will break. But they try to get her to sign this document, which will say like she'll make no further attempts of escape, and obviously she doesn't. That's what the show is sort of centered around. But I mean, after this third attempted escape, it was like pretty much, she got beat up a lot, and so I found a way to still incorporate my love for physicality in it. I think the challenge definitely was in exploring that side of me, exploring my feminine side, and my like that inner strength, rather than the outward, Wonder Woman type aesthetic that I usually go for. And I found the challenge to be really fun, because when I was reading about her story and when I was exploring her, a lot of it, one, like, I connected with, but I also saw a lot of my mom in her, and like, I was like reading her, I was like, this is exactly what my mother would have done, because she's also another woman who's like extremely nimble, like tiny, kind of unassuming like that, and I was raised in sort of an arranged marriage situation. Not, she was bred to be like the oldest daughter, who's the wife, the mother, and there were times that my mother would surprise me, with that, like her fierceness and her drive to make sure that I was okay, and I started seeing, as the years went by, like this lion come out, and so it was really interesting to explore, like, that, who someone is on the inside versus how people perceive them, because like, this is what I believe, is like, no one really changes, like, the war did not change her. That's who Noor Inayat Khan is. It's just that she wasn't able to express it, in her younger days, and the war brought out fighting for the right thing, finding her purpose in life, brought out who she truly was. So I thought that the challenge became more of a fun task. Yeah.
And well, a different kind of strength in a way. This is a one-woman show, which means you're on stage the whole time. What was that preparation like? And what is that experience like? Because, most people, when you see a show, there's different people. People come, people go. But if you're a one-woman or, anybody, one-person show, you're there the whole time. So tell me about that.
It's thrilling. I mean, it's like, definitely each time it gets a little easier, but there's always that, like, well, I only have myself, and it's a little weirder because I wrote it, but in a way, I think it takes that pressure off, because I will admit this, I don't think I've done the same show twice, because I'm always changing a line, here and there, because for me, it's still like a work in progress. For me, I'm still developing it. I'm still, different audiences tell me different things, and the energy in the room is always different, and so I come from a Stella Adler training method, which is where I'm studying right now, Stella Adler Art of Acting, and her technique is all about being present in that very moment, not the moment before, not the moment later. And so this is why I say, like, I can't replicate what I did the last time, because everything is a response to being in that moment, in my mental state in that moment. Sometimes, like, what I'm saying is a joke. Sometimes it's not a joke. Sometimes I'm very serious about what I'm saying. And like, I think I'm someone who loves sharing the stage with another person. I love to have that interaction. But the thing that's been interesting for this, and I would have to also credit my co-director for this, was using the audience as another scene partner.
Interesting.
Because there's obviously, like, I'm talking to the Gestapo leader, and he's a presence in the room, even though there's no actual actor playing him. Like, I'm speaking to him, but there are times that I am breaking the fourth wall, and there are times that I'm being like tongue in cheek a little bit. There is, in a tragic story, there always has to be comedy, otherwise it's just a sob story for like 30 minutes. So there are times that I do interact with the audience and sort of use their energy and like talk to them, direct address to them. And so in that way, I'm not missing a scene partner as much because now I get to use the audience as my scene partner. So it's cool. It's just, it's different. It's thrilling. It's like, I never know what's going to happen next, because I only have this and the sound cues that, that we've set up to work with. So, it's definitely a very, you got to be present.
Yeah, I would think with the variations of the audience and, as you were saying, living in the moment, it would keep it fresh and a unique experience for the audience every time as well. And then you in turn get a different experience based on your audience. You're about halfway through your run or so. What's been the most interesting audience reaction thus far?
I mean, this last Sunday, like I said, like every audience is different. This past Sunday, there were things that I was like, wow, this is a comedy. Like, which I did. I wrote it originally as like, because for me, her story is more funny than it is sad. And I don't say that in a way to like be disrespectful to her. Yeah. I find it, because I connect to her on so many levels, I find it hilarious that this tiny woman is running around Paris with a giant suitcase, evading the Nazis and just lying to them left and right, like the most ridiculous lies. You know what I mean? And they're just like, oh yeah, of course. Like, to me that's enduring, And so it was nice to have an audience that was responding so audibly, and that doesn't mean that like I'm not, that doesn't mean that the previous audiences weren't with it, and they weren't like, and I appreciated that too. It's just like I said, it's a different show, and it is just interesting to play with different energies in the room. And, certain things hit people differently because of their own life experience. And this show can be triggering to people because of the subject matter. Or it can be empowering to people because of the defiance this character has towards these horrible people, And sometimes that's either thrilling and fun and exciting to people, or that's like something that people just need to take a second on, and internalize. And so I enjoy every version of a response to the show. And I think there's something really beautiful in that, because like everyone can have their own takeaway, and that's my goal. There's no I'm not trying to force people to feel a certain way, and I enjoy the fluidity of responses.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of art. It's subjective, so everybody interprets it a different way. So that's really cool. You mentioned triggering. It made me think of, some of the images that you've posted so far of your bloodied and bruised look. It's makeup. Don't worry, everybody. But what is that process like of putting that on and going out into an audience? Because it is that, we know it's, makeup, but it still gives it context and, reactionary of seeing someone injured.
I mean, on the jokey side of it, I tell people like I've always been someone who's covered in blood and dirt. Just like I was always that kid. You know what I mean? So, as a fight choreographer, as someone who has just done so many fight shows with blood and stuff, it's just like second nature to me. But there is also a vulnerable feeling of putting yourself in that situation, because my teacher used to say this, and I've come to realize how true she is. The body doesn't know the difference between you acting and you going through something in real life. Like, you mentally know it, but your body holds trauma, And when you're putting yourself through that experience, the body will continue to like carry that weight. And the way the show starts is so visceral, you know, that like it's 30 minutes, but it's like 30 minutes of intensity. And so there's like blood, and then there's more blood that starts happening in the show. And, you know, by the end of it, it's just like this feeling of like I have to almost like breathe and find sort of a routine. So like remind myself, like, we're back in 2022, like we're in the Hollywood Fringe Festival, we're about to go get a beer, everything's gonna be fine, you know. And so it's yeah, it can feel vulnerable, you know, especially with like the juxtaposition of the costume that I'm wearing, which is this beautiful blue dress that is, you know, and the blue dress is symbolic to her because that's the color that she was caught in. That's her favorite color. That's the dress she was caught in. Not exactly what I'm wearing, but you know, you do what you can with with the budget you have. And there's something very like, I found like a lot of my artistic statement is very synonymous with like, you know, Wizard of Oz, like Dorothy, Wendy, you know, like Alice in Wonderland, like the blue dress, the young woman seeking out adventure in a world that is so filled with darkness. And that's exactly what Noor did, you know. And so there's something like very, like almost like fairy tale-esque about it. And then being covered in that blood and getting beaten up, then it's like I'm almost bearing my soul to the audience that way, you know. So on that level, it is vulnerable. On the other level, it is a little tedious too, because it's like the cleanup is it's just blood, you know, and Fringe moves so fast, like it's in and out kind of thing. It's a festival, so it's like then, you know, I have to figure out how I should get all this off in like 5 minutes, and you know, there's that side of it as well. But
well, it's the physical washing off, and as you said, the mental washing off of getting out of that headspace and going back into the world. And now you're going into your final weekend. How are you feeling? I got you out, but right before a sip there. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I feel sad a little bit because it, you know, it feels like this is something that, you know, like I said, it was 17 years in the making almost, because I learned about her when I was 10, you know, and I never thought that. I always was interested in her. I was like, oh my God, I want to play her one day, but I never thought I would be writing a solo show about her, you know? And I know that it's not. I know that even this is closing weekend, the project doesn't end here because there's other things that I want to do with it. But there's this sense of like, I feel like pride, and I feel humbled with all the love and support that I'm getting from the audience. You know, it is a nice feeling that when you believe in something, when you believe in someone's story, and then other people respond to it, you know, it's just you know, it's a sense of pride. But then there's also like that, a little somberness of like, oh man, like I want to keep going, you know, I don't want this to end. But this is you know, this final weekend is going to be a very exciting weekend. You know, we're like pretty much sold out. You know, we've had all sold out performances, and this Friday night, we're having Desi night, which is important to me because, you know, Noor is an Indian woman, and there's so often like stories about Indian excellence gets put in the back burner. You know, like there's about 3 million people of Indian descent who contributed to World War II, and none of their stories are heard today, you know. So to me, I want to celebrate her, but I also want to celebrate like South Asians and like their work and their art and their presence, especially in this entertainment industry. And so I'm having like a Desi night kind of thing. I'm just inviting all the Desis, and then we're gonna have an after party to celebrate all of that. We'll have like we're getting a food truck from Good Karma. To support the show. We'll have like mango lassi in the box office right before the shows. It's gonna be like a fun like mini Desi celebration get together. So I'm really looking forward to that night.
Well, since it's the last weekend, if people want more information, where do they go?
HollywoodFringe.org. So it's just the Hollywood Fringe Festival website, you know, and there's like a million shows to choose from. We have like over 200 shows, I think, going up this year. Some really, really good shows that are happening. But if you go to the site and just type Noor Inayat Khan, The Forgotten Spy, or just The Forgotten Spy, if you don't want to type that much, my show will pop up and you'll get all like the description, and you know, you can meet the production team and all of that, and that's where you can get tickets as well.
All right. Well, congratulations on the first half, and break a leg for the second half.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for talking with me about your show. It sounds super interesting.
Thank you for having me on this. It means a lot.
Thank you so much for watching Chat with Kari on Diya TV. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up. I'm Kari Lane with Diya TV, and I'll see you next time.